right at the noon hour, and I believe in starting on time. And I'm actually very excited to present this to you because this is something I've been working on for over a year. And the reason I've been working on this for over a year is I keep hearing owners not knowing what to do. They're like, Barb, so much is changing, so much is going on. Like, we just have to kind of sit back and wait, and everybody's buying all these AI tools and thinking that AI is going to really make a difference in their business. And it's such a disruption that there's so much being, and I'm not saying that's not true, but there's things going on. And so what I tried to do last year, I think all of you know that I spent the whole year speaking in front of your customers. I only did two staffing conferences in 2025. I got in front of our end users and it was brutal. I mean, they were you people, and there's two perceptions out there that are killing us. Clients think they're a source of revenue. Candidates think we don't care about them, that we just care about filling jobs. And when we pitch jobs up front, and we only talk to clients when we're making money on them, we prove them right. And so, that's why I'm so excited about doing this. And rather than waiting to the fall conferences, I thought if I deliver this now, you could start implementing some of these ideas and these transformations. So by the last quarter of this year, you're positioning your company differently. And that's why I decided to go ahead and just, present this as a webinar rather than waiting for the national conferences. And first of all, I want to thank all of you, okay, because I know you're leaders, you're busy, and I know that your time is very valuable, and that's why I'm going to make this very concise, But the one question I have for all of you is knowing what you know right now, would you build your business the exact same way? We're going to talk about six transformations that'll determine whether your staffing firm is going to thrive or struggle, and not only just over the next 5 years. What I'm going to teach you today is not going to go away. And I'm basing my knowledge on the feedback I got from your clients, what is going on with candidates, the big data that I have access to because I've done 18 courses for LinkedIn, and I follow certain economists. And so what I'm going to be teaching you today is not my opinion. It's based on all the facts I've been gathering, and we just can't keep sitting back and waiting to see what's going to happen. It's dangerous to do that because there is so much going on right now. And I've been working on this for over a year, but finally it all just came together in like the last 60 days. And so my question to you is, if you built your business, would you build it the exact same way? Now, I'm not asking you if you buy different software. I'm not asking you if you would just make a few improvements. I mean, would you build your business the exact same way that you have it right now? Okay, knowing what you know about everything that's going on. Now, most owners, when I pose that to them, because I do a lot of owner retreats, say no. And if your answer is yes, if you'd build it the same way, this briefing is probably not for you. Because today isn't about making incremental improvements. It's not about that at all. It's about rethinking the future of your business. Today, what I want you to do is I want you to step back from just the daily demands of running a staffing firm and focus on a much bigger question that we all have to answer. What kind of staffing firm is going to thrive over the next 5 years? Because I don't believe we're experiencing a temporary shift. This is not like a recession. This is not like an economic downturn. I believe we're living through one of the most significant transformations our profession has ever seen. Our businesses are not going to look the same. They're just not. And history has taught us some incredible lessons. The firms that emerged stronger, and I don't care if it was a recession, a downturn, if it was, 9/11, the firms that always emerge stronger, the firms whose leaders recognize change before everyone else does, and they've got the courage to adapt change. I have people say to me all the time, Barb, why do you keep changing things? Like, they'll hear me one year and the next year I come to you sound totally different. I go, because things have changed. And see, this has always been true. And I believe this is true more today than it's ever been before. And everybody keeps saying that AI is the biggest disruption that our profession has ever faced. And I respectfully disagree. I don't agree with that at all. I don't believe that AI is the biggest disruption in our business. I believe all AI has done is accelerated. Artificial intelligence is
Quanto
simply exposing the
mensagem.
strengths and weaknesses that already existed inside of our businesses. And so I don't think it's the biggest disruption. The real transformation became years before AI even arrived. And I want you to think about two things right now. And I really want you to like everything's off the table right now. I want you to have a very open mind for some of the things I'm going to say to you right now because this is very transformative. First of all, I want you to think about your clients. Okay. 20 years ago, they hired staffing firms because we had access to candidates that they couldn't find themselves. Today, clients have LinkedIn Recruiter. They have sophisticated CRMs and applicant training systems. They've got internal recruiting teams. They have employee referral programs, job boards, offshore recruiting resources, AI-powered sourcing platforms. And so information has become a commodity, where before we had access to information that they didn't. Now I want you to think about the candidates. Um, they don't need recruiters to tell them that jobs exist. Before they finish their first cup of coffee, they can search thousands of opportunities from their laptop or their phone. So if clients can access candidates and candidates can access jobs, what exactly is our value? Because I believe that that is the single most important question that every staffing firm and every person leading a staffing firm should be asking themselves right now. Because the value that we produced in the past does not even exist anymore. Because I believe that the future belongs to staffing firms that stop thinking about themselves simply as recruiters that fill jobs and begin thinking of themselves again as relationship builders, but elevated, trusted advisors, leadership developers, business consultants, and architects of long-term value. If people just view you as a transactional vendor who fills jobs for them, it comes down to price and speed. And you can't afford to have, you don't want to be the cheapest person out there. You don't want to be Walmart, not when you're in staffing and recruiting. And if you do contract staffing or temporary staffing, so many temporary staffing firms, I'm doing consulting for an owner of a very large light industrial temporary staffing firm. And he realized yesterday, I've been working with him for about 60 days and I got all of his numbers in that. And he realized yesterday that he is only making, when you look at gross sales, that's kind of a funny number. He is only making 2% profit right now in his business. And when he finally realized that yesterday, he just couldn't even breathe. He's like, "Oh my God, all the work we're putting out, and if anything goes wrong, that 2% disappears." And I go, "That's why you're not profitable. That's why you can't scale. That's why you can't grow." And the problem is he's been conducting his firm the same way for the last 5 years. And when you're doing a high volume temp, it's such a fast paced thing. You don't even have time to stand back and think about this. But we have to raise the bar. Are we going to have less people working for us in the future? I think we will. I think that AI is going to replace a lot of the mundane, repetitive tasks. But the people that work for us, we've got to raise the bar on how our clients and candidates perceive them. Because again, if clients feel like a source of revenue and candidates feel like we don't care about them, we only care about filling a job, then we become a transactional vendor. We become a commodity. One of my favorite Peter Drucker quotes was the greatest danger of turbulent times is not the turbulence, it's acting with yesterday's logic. And, my first question whenever I'm at a conference, and I've done 11 conferences in the last 6 weeks, and I ask everybody, what have you changed since January 1? Give me a significant change that you've made because this year is different than the last 6 months of last year. And they all look at me like deer in headlights. Well, but Barb, it's the candidates, it's the job market. No, it's you. You didn't change anything. The firms that flourish over the next 5 years simply won't work harder. They're going to think differently. They're going to view things differently. And what I want to leave you with today, before we begin, I want to send one expectation. Today's session is called an executive briefing for a reason. My objective today isn't going to teach you everything you required to implement all these changes because I couldn't do that in 30 minutes. Instead, my goal is much more important. What I want to do today is I want to challenge the way you think about your business. I want to challenge the way you think about your staffing firm. Because transformation doesn't begin by changing what you do. Transformation begins when you change the way you think about your business. Implementation comes later, but every meaningful transformation comes with a new perspective. I want you to leave here and go, wow. So over the next few minutes, what I'm going to introduce are 6 transformations that are already separating staffing firms for the future. Mark, can you mute your line, please? Mark, I need you to mute your line. Let's see, I muted you. Okay, got you muted. All right, so let's get into our transformation. I'm going to give you 6 transformations today. Transformation number 1, okay, is what I believe is the foundation for every successful staffing firm in the future. Not technology, not AI, not sales, relationships. We have to become a lifetime career agent. When I entered this profession over 35 years ago, recruiters possessed something incredibly valuable. We had information. We knew who was hiring. We knew about the opportunities that weren't advertised. We had relationships candidates couldn't access on their own. And that information made us valuable. But guess what? Today, information is everywhere. Candidates can search thousands of opportunities again before they finish their morning coffee. LinkedIn connects them directly with hiring managers. Artificial intelligence recommends positions, and job boards are updated every minute. And so, if information is now a commodity, what becomes our value? And I believe the answer is guidance. The staffing firms that flourish over the next 5 years won't simply help people find jobs. They're going to help people build their careers. That's an entirely different relationship. A recruiter might ask somebody, what salary are you looking for? A lifetime career agent is going to ask, what kind of career are you trying to build? The conversation is transactional. The other is transformational. Lifetime career agents don't focus on filling today's opening. They focus on becoming the first person a candidate calls whenever they're facing an important career decision. And that's exactly the opportunity every recruiter has with every candidate they meet. You've got to stand out. Artificial intelligence can recommend jobs, but they can't replace wisdom, and it can't replace trust, and it can't replace genuine concern for another person's success. And that's where our profession even becomes more valuable. I want to share a story with you that happened years ago to me, and it's kind of a crazy story, but I think it'll give you I'm a very visual person, so I want to share this story. I was prepping a VP of HR once. She was going on one of my clients' jobs, okay? And as we got done with the prep, she said she was interested. She was excited. On a scale of 1 to 10, she was a 10. But I was sensing something because she was hesitating before she was giving the answers. Like she'd give me a 10 out of 10, but she hesitated. And that's always a red flag. And so I finally said to her, I'm just getting the feeling, Sylvia, that something's missing. I know this is a $35,000 increase in pay. I know it's closer to your home. It's what you want, but my gut is telling me something's going on here. Can you please share because you're hesitating? And I'm just concerned. I want to make sure that this is answering what you want. And I said, is this job exactly what you see yourself doing next? Is there any concerns you have at all? And there was dead silence. And all of a sudden she said, I'd rather drive a bus.
Ah,
And I went, what did you just say? She goes, I'd rather drive a bus. And I go, I'm sending you for a VP of HR job. That's what you do. You'd rather drive a bus. Would you mind telling me why? And she said, Barb, last year my autistic son got dropped off at the wrong stop and he was missing for 11 hours. And it was the worst 11 hours of my life. And I've worked my whole life. I have a very responsible job. And every day at 3 o'clock, I am watching that clock. I've got my care. I'm so anxious because I worry about my son. And I said, do you have to work? And she said, do I have to work? Of course I have to work. I go, no, financially, do you have to work? And she said, no, my husband makes extremely good money. And I said, why do you work? And she said, it's what I've always done. I've just always worked. And I said, so let me ask you a question. Would it make you happier if you jumped off of the rat race and you're commuting to downtown Chicago and worrying about your son every day until he gets a little bit older? Do you maybe want to work where he's being taken care of? Do you want to be there and be more of a mom and really deal with your anxiety rather than taking another job that's more pressure? This job is more pressure than the one you have now. And she just started to bawl and she goes, nobody's ever asked me if I wanted to work, or I never thought about that I could be with my son. I never even thought about that. And I said, why don't you think about it overnight? Before you do the interview tomorrow at noon, you think about this and you let me know if you want to go on the interview. She called me the next morning. I've been up all night. Barb, I actually called them this morning and I can actually drive my son's van and I can volunteer where his daycare program is. And she said, I'm going to just jump off the rat race for a while. Now, we didn't make a placement, obviously. The client wasn't happy because she'd been on one interview. But when I told them the reason, I said, I just discovered she'd rather drive a bus. And they're like, what? And they, how'd you find that out? I go, we have to ask better questions, guys. We've got to ask better questions. But 10 years later, when she was ready to jump back in, she came back to us. She sent us so many referrals. And she was like, she could have been my PR agency. In fact, I got an award from a nonprofit that she ended up volunteering at because of what I had done for her. And I'm not saying we do it to get the acknowledgement or reward, but that's the kind of impact we can have. And when she was ready 10 years later, she came back to us. If your best candidates resigned tomorrow morning, would they call one of your recruiters or would they just simply update their LinkedIn profile? Because the answer to that question tells me whether you're building relationships or whether, you're just a transactional vendor, and you're viewed as a transactional vendor. Transformation number two is to become a trusted advisor. Let's shift our attention from candidates to clients, okay? For decades, staffing firms have competed on speed. Who could submit the candidates first? Who had the largest database? Who could fill jobs faster?
Mhm.
Sometimes who would work for the lowest markup or the lowest fee? And let's be honest, those advantages are becoming increasingly temporary, and none of us want to be the lowest fee or the lowest margin. You don't want to be Walmart. You can't afford to be. Technology has leveled the playing field. Clients have access to sourcing tools, applicant tracking systems or CRMs. They've got internal recruiting teams. They've got artificial intelligence. They've got global talent. And so here's the question. If your clients can access many of the same tools that you have, why should they choose your firm? In fact, when I was out there last year speaking to your customers, the one question they kept asking me was, when did you people stop recruiting? You're advertising. I could call three staffing firms, and if I give a job, I'll get the same candidates because you're all advertising. We're already advertising. And again, why should they choose your firm? The answer shouldn't be because you're faster. And the answer isn't because you send more resumes. The answer is because you understand something that they don't. You understand their business. Do you have Google Alerts set up on every current client and every prospect? Do you know the KPIs that your hiring managers are trying to achieve? Do you know what business outcome is going to be impacted by you filling a job? Do you know what it's costing them to have this job vacant? I talked to somebody in Naples, Florida about 2 hours ago, and he's hiring me as a consultant, and he owns these very exclusive private clubs in Naples. He's in hospitality. And he said that the biggest problem they have is that it's taking them so long to fill jobs. And I said, so what is it costing you? He goes, what do you mean is it costing me? He goes, we just can't fill them. And I go, but what is it costing you? And he goes, oh my God, I've never even looked at it that way. And it was like, he goes, I don't even want to talk to you about that, Barb. He goes, because oh my God, that would just make me, I probably more upset than I am right now. And so trusted advisors ask completely different questions than traditional recruiters and salespeople. Instead of asking, what positions are you trying to fill, they ask what's preventing your organization from achieving your business goals. That's a very different conversation. And if somebody calls in a job and you take it and you go work it and you don't get any background, you don't know the impact that this hire has, you're a transactional vendor. Clients don't wake up in the morning and say, I hope I can work with another staffing firm today. I hope somebody calls me. I want to give them business. None of them wake up thinking that. Okay, they just don't. I mean, we would love if they did that. Wouldn't that be great? But they're using less staffing and recruiting firms. You know why? Because they feel we're all giving them the same candidates. What they wake up thinking about is growth and revenue and productivity and customer satisfaction and innovation and market share. They don't wake up thinking, I hope a staffing firm calls me today so I can break them in. Our responsibility is connecting talent to those business outcomes because when that happens, something remarkable happens. Clients stop viewing you as a transactional staffing vendor and they start reviewing you as an extension of their leadership team. And once that happens, price becomes less important because people negotiate with vendors, with transactional vendors. They invest in advisors. And one of the questions that I often ask executive teams is this: how many of your clients invite you to conversations before a position is ever approved? Or are you the last resort? We've got to quit being the last resort. We want them to call us first, realizing that it's cost effective. We can fill the job faster. We're going to fill it with people they don't get on their own. Think about that. If clients only called after they wrote a job description, you're filling the openings. But when they involve you before they ever decide what they need, you're influencing the strategy. And that is where long-term relationships begin. I want you to think about one final question. If I interviewed your 10 best clients this afternoon, I called you after this call and I said, give me a list of your top clients. Would they describe your organization as just another staffing firm or one of the most valuable business partners they have? Because the answer to that question says far more about your future than your placement or fill statistics ever will. Let's look at transformation number three, and that's from measuring activity to measuring business impact. The third transformation focuses on something every owner and executive level manager should think about every single day, and that's performance. Now, I'm not suggesting for a moment that we stop measuring activity. I'm just suggesting that we stop believing activity alone tells us whether we're building a great business because it doesn't. Activity and impact are not the same thing. What measurements would remain that truly tell you whether your business is becoming more valuable? Those are the metrics you deserve your greatest attention because whatever you consistently measure, people consistently improve. And the problem is most of us as leaders, we're spending so much time trying to save people that are borderline or not performing rather than really focusing on the people that are making us money and giving them everything they need to succeed. So we want to measure business impact, not just activity. Transformation number four is go from technology user to technology integrator. Now let's talk about this topic everyone seems to be discussing, artificial intelligence. Will AI replace recruiters? My answer has remained remarkably consistent. The answer is no. But I can tell you something. Exceptional recruiters are going to become even more valuable. Average recruiters who refuse to evolve will be replaced. They're going to be run over by their competition. Not because technology became extraordinary, it's because they didn't. They didn't. The people that work for you have to be comfortable with change. And you, as the owner leader, you've got to constantly be in introducing change to them. And they have to see how it benefits them. That's why I believe firms that flourish won't choose between AI and people. They'll intentionally combine both. You're going to have a lot of employees that don't have names, that don't have a heartbeat. And that's going to be the artificial intelligent backup that's going to do a lot of the mundane tasks that you're not going to pay anything for. You're going to use technology for efficiency. You're going to use people for empathy. You're going to use technology for speed. You're going to use people for judgment. You're going to use technology for information, but you're going to use your people for wisdom. That's the future. There's a big difference. Artificial intelligence should never replace relationships. It should create even more time to build them. And I want to ask you a question. If artificial intelligence eliminated 20% of your team's administrative work tomorrow, which, by the way, in my organization, it replaced 35% of our administrative tasks are now being done by AI. It's amazing to me how many things you can automate, and leaving much more time for us to make better use of our time. But if that happened, if artificial intelligence eliminated 20% of your team's work, do you have a plan for how they would invest their time? Because organizations that intentionally answer that question will create a competitive advantage that technology alone can never deliver. It's not enough just to make your people more efficient. What are you going to do with that time now? If it puts 20% more time back in their day, what are they going to do with that? Because organizations determine whether the business you're building today becomes an organization that creates lasting wealth or one that can never grow beyond the owner who founded it. And let's talk about enterprise value and leadership. That leads me to transformation number five, from building revenue to building enterprise value. Okay. The fifth transformation might be the one owners and leaders think least about. Okay. Yet it's often the one that determines the future of your business. Every staffing owner I talk to wants to grow revenue. Revenue matters. It pays salary. It funds expansion. It creates opportunity. But here's something I've learned after working with staffing firms around the world for more than 35 years. Revenue pays today's bills. Enterprise value builds tomorrow's wealth. Those are not the same thing. Whether you ever intend to sell your staffing firm or not, that's irrelevant. Building enterprise value creates a stronger company today, not just a more valuable company tomorrow. Organizations with high enterprise value attract better employees, they retain clients better, they adapt to change quicker, and they weather any kind of uncertainty more successfully. And they provide owners with something every entrepreneur wants, and often doesn't feel they have, and that's choices. The choice to expand, the choice to acquire, the choice to transition leadership, the choice to sell, or simply the confidence knowing your business can flourish without depending on you every day. Now, I'm going to ask you a loaded question. If you stepped away from your staffing firm for the next 90 days, Would your business keep moving forward, or would every important decision eventually find its way back to your cell phone? Because that answer tells you far more about the value of your company than any financial statement ever could. Because true valuable businesses don't depend on one extraordinary individual, they build extraordinary organizations. And I know many owners right now that just feel that their business is on their back. And it can't be. And if you implement the transformations I'm showing you today, you're going to take that business off your back. Transformation six is from owner dependency to leadership depth. That brings us to what I believe is the most important transformation of all, leadership. Throughout my career, I've had the privilege of working with some remarkable staffing firm owners. They're visionary, they're passionate, they're hardworking, they're committed. They build successful businesses through persistence and determination and extraordinary effort. Ironically, ironically, those same strengths became their greatest obstacle to future growth because everyone depended on them. Every important decision begins with one question. What does the owner want us to do? And I remember I had a coach once and I was complaining to a coach. I always have a coach or a mentor. I just do. And I complained to one of my coach once. I go, I'm done. Like, I feel like my people are connected to me by an umbilical cord. Like they just can't make decisions. And he goes, but Barb, when they come to you with a problem, what do you do? And I go, well, I go there and close the deal or solve it for them. He said, so you're basically letting them use your brain. You can't blame them from the umbilical cord if you created the umbilical cord. When somebody, and I want to give, this is not on your handout, write this down. Every time, if you're in leadership, every time somebody asks you a question, I want you to give them the same answer. I don't care what question they ask you. The answer is, what is your solution? What is your solution? You've got to teach people what you know. I always go back to that parable. If somebody's hungry and you give them fish to eat, they eat one meal. If you teach them how to fish, they eat for the rest of their life. We've got to teach people how to fish. You don't want the business on your back. That's not leadership, that's dependence. And dependence limits your growth. One of the most common mistakes, too, that I see is promoting top producers simply because they were outstanding recruiters or exceptional salespeople. Production and leadership are not the same thing. The staffing firms that flourish won't simply recruit future talent, they'll develop future leaders. Because great leaders create something every owner eventually needs, and that's confidence. Confidence that your organization is going to thrive whether you're in the room or not. And that's where scalability really does begin. And you want to, when you're hiring, you want to look for people that have leadership abilities, not just sales abilities, if you want to scale your business. Organizations that have leadership depth don't simply survive change, they lead it because they've got people backing them up. And so those are the six transformations that work together. And I'm going to show you something that I created that kind of brings this all together. And at this point, you're probably thinking, okay, these are six major transformations. Where do we begin? Because that's what owners tell me when I'm consulting with them. But these aren't six independent ideas. They aren't six separate initiatives. It's one integrated business strategy. And that's why I created this, the transformation firm, transformational wheel, the staffing firm, transformational wheel. And I want you to look at this for just a moment, because this is what I really spent most of my time working on. Um, don't worry about reading every word, except just notice the shape, because this isn't simply another business model. It's a way of thinking differently about your staffing firms. When owners first see the wheel, they usually focus on the six transformations out around the outside. I don't. I don't. I always look at the center, because if the center is wrong, everything else will eventually fall apart. And so when you look at how these six transformations connect, because none of them stands alone, each one strengthens the next. They work together as one complete business strategy. That's why I didn't call this the six independent strategies. It's one integrated system. Each transformation reinforces the next, and together they create something more powerful than any one initiative ever could, because they work together. Now let's come back to the center, because I think that's the most important part. You notice the center was not artificial intelligence. It wasn't recruiting. It wasn't sales. It wasn't technology. It wasn't even leadership. The center is purpose, because that's where everything begins. What is the purpose of your company? Every placement, every fill, every candidate relationship, every conversation, every decision, every investment you make, every innovation, every strategic choice you're making. Purpose answers that one fundamental question: why do you exist? Not what do you do, not how do you do it, but why does your organization matter? Because when your purpose is clear, decision making becomes much easier. Culture becomes stronger. People become more engaged. Clients become more loyal. And candidates become your advocates. Everybody you've placed in a job, they're either your army of recruiters out there telling everybody about your company and sending people to you, or they're being recruited away by your competition. And leaders become more intentional. Purpose isn't a slogan on a wall. It's the foundation that supports everything else that you do. Because organizations that know why they exist are much more capable of adapting how they operate. That's why purpose sits at the center of the staffing firm transformation wheel. It isn't one part of the business, it's the foundation. And firms that flourish over the next decade, they're not simply going to optimize departments. I found myself doing that last year when I saw all these changes happening. I started talking about we got to recruit different, we got to market different, and we're trying to upgrade for what people are looking for. And then I realized, wait a minute, we're piecemealing it. We're improving one firm at a time. No, you've got to transform your business as a complete system. One integrated strategy designed to help staffing firms become more profitable, more scalable, more resilient, more valuable, and better prepared for what's coming next. And if there's one thing you and I know, change is going to continue to happen. And so, as I conclude today's briefing, I'd like to take you back to the question I asked you that we began with. If, in fact, knowing what you know right now, would you build your staffing firm the same way? Knowing everything you know about artificial intelligence and the changing client expectations and technology, most owners tell me no. And I believe that's the most important realization you can make as a leader, because transformation doesn't begin by changing your staffing firm. Transformation begins by you changing the way you think about your staffing firm. And so again, these transformations, you're going to have this handout, you're going to have all the information. And today I've talked about transformations that I know will determine which staffing firms flourish over the next decade and which are going to struggle to keep up. My hope wasn't simply to give you new ideas. It was to help you see what's possible when you intentionally redesign the way your business operates. Because here's what I know. I know that if you embrace these 6 transformations, you won't simply improve your results over the next few months. You're going to build a staffing firm that's stronger and more profitable and more valuable and better prepared for whatever comes next. And you and I know new things are going to come down, but there's also something else I know. Knowing what to do is the easy part. Figuring out how to implement it is where firms get stuck. And so this is something you can do on your own. I've given you all the information, and all you have to do is read it and look at it and just look at the way you're doing things, and you can create this on your own. But in order to implement this, obviously, you've got to develop strategies and you've got to develop systems and scripts and conversations and develop leadership tools and all the things that go along with making this transformation. And frankly, is that best use of your time as an owner? Probably not. And that's why what I did is I've created a staffing firm transformation blueprint. And the reason I've done this, it's much more than training. It's a complete implementation system designed to help your organization put those transformations into action. And I'm not going to go into all the details, but again, this will help you go from where you are now to where you need to be. And I've included many things, scripts and a workbook and systems and templates and step by step on how you can do this. Everything's been created for you. And the other thing is too, I didn't want to do this like, oh God, she's selling us now at the end. Understand something. You don't need to buy the blueprint. You can do this on your own. The reason I developed the blueprint is if you want to jump start, I'm going to do 2 sessions in August and 2 sessions in September, so that by the last quarter of this year, you got these implemented. Okay. And I wanted to make it a no-brainer. So there's 4 workshops for $399. And they're very interactive. 3 are for everybody, because you got to get your team on board, because as much as we say our people are our greatest assets, they're not unless they're the right people. And you as the owner can go, boy, I'm going to do this. And your team is going to go, that's not going to work. It's not going to, the way we're doing it, the way you're doing it right now is not working. This way of doing business is not something that's only going to work for the next 3, 6, 12 months. This is a long-term way that our industry is totally transforming. I mean, and again, in the 30 plus years I've been doing this, I've never seen a transformation like we're seeing right now. And so, again, 1 year from now, your staffing firm will look different, if you do transform. And wouldn't you love to be the firm that clients really trust and that candidates call first and that your employees really want to work for and that your competition struggles to keep up with? I think that's all of our dreams. That's who we want to be. And so I would obviously love the opportunity to partner with you as you implement these. But I want to thank you for being here. I hope that this information got your brain going. I am telling you that this is probably the best thing I've done in a long time was just taking the time I needed to figure this out. So whether you use me to help you or you do this on your own, please don't just come to this session and go, okay, it was okay. I've heard some of it before, but some of it, you might have heard some of it before, but not the way I presented it. And this truly will have a tremendous impact on your company. So whether you partner with me or whether you do it on your own, look at that transformation wheel because that is the key to the future of your business. And whether you want to sell or what you want to do with your company in the future, this is going to increase the value of your firm and it's going to get your business off your back. None of you deserve, if you are the top producer of your firm, if you can't walk away for 90 days, all you did was buy yourself a job. And I don't think any of you wanted to buy yourself a job. You want to develop something that creates the lifestyle that you deserve to live. That's what all of you want. And that's what this will do for you. So I'm going to open the lines right now. In fact, I don't even have to open the lines. All you have to do is unmute your line and you can ask me any questions you want. So does anybody have any questions? Or does anybody want to share what they learned? Or, just unmute your line. Let me know who you are. And you can open your line just by clicking on that red microphone. Unmute your line. Anybody?
Okay, can you hear me,
I
Barbara?
sure can, Elizabeth. How are
Okay.
you?
Hi, good. How are you?
I'm fine,
You look
thank you.
gorgeous as always.
Oh, thank
My
you.
question is, I was very late. I had a conference call and I'm like, no, 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 because I just, it's been a long time since you and I, long time. But
Yeah.
is there a video that I can look at this and show Steve or whatever?
Yes, yes. What I did is I this whole PowerPoint presentation is recorded, and so you're going to get this after the call. We're going to send this out, so you'll have the PowerPoint presentation where you can watch it. Because I
Perfect.
know I had a lot of people that couldn't make the call today. Tech Serve Alliance is also doing a call at this exact time, and so I had a lot of their members calling me. Go, Barb. I go. I didn't know they were doing the call at a half hour into my call. I had no idea. So yeah. So as long as people signed up, they're going to get the recording and that. So yes, you'll get the recording of this. Do you have any
Okay, and
questions
then
at
I
all?
have I have one other question
Sure.
because I'm sure everybody shares this that's online.
Hmm.
We're being bombarded by AI. And I
Yeah.
think that is the biggest question. It is happening at a bullet train, lightning
Hmm.
speed. So, I get it. The ones that, the recruiters that are, I don't know, you kind of said, the ones that are not really on their game are going to be replaced.
Hmm.
How do everything's being sent at us, right? Oh, we got
Hmm.
to try this AI, we got to try that AI. And what happens is when you start looking at different ones, especially for recruiters,
Hmm.
it's so overwhelming because I'm so slammed all day. And I'm like, where is the time to figure this out? So could
Right.
you
And what I want
share
to
your
say, what I
thoughts
want to
on
say to you is, what I want to say to you is the first thing I want all of you to do is learn how to use the AI functions that your ATS or your CRM are offering you. Because most of the things you need are being provided for you by your ATS company or by your CRM company. You're already paying for that.
that?
There are 1,904, as last count, according to LinkedIn last week, there's 1,904 AI companies right now. And there's probably 500 that are targeting the staffing and recruiting profession. And during these sessions, if you want to ask me specific questions about certain tools, I'll be glad to answer them. But I don't believe that that you even need most of the tools that are out there. Your ATS and your CRM have functions, and those companies want you to stay with them. So they're giving you the functions that are the most valuable, and they integrate with their system. And so those are the best tools you can use, are the tools that are being provided to you by your ATS and CRM. Quit looking for the magic bullet. There's a couple things out there that I would recommend. I'm not going to do it on a general call like this. If you ask me offline, I'll be glad to recommend a couple things that I think are amazing. But we've got to just stand back and realize that again, AI is not the end all be all. Is it going to make us more efficient? Yes. But some of the best tools I've seen are the tools that are integrated with your ATS and your CRM systems because it's integrating what you're already doing, but you got to get your people to use the systems. Problem is, in my organization, if it's not in the ATS, it doesn't exist. We've got to get our people to learn how to use, everybody hates their ATM, they hate their CRM, because they never learned how to use it. And so I would say that's where you start. You start out by saying what AI functions your CRM or ATS, offer. And then all the rest of this, just let it ride out through the end of the year. Don't do anything. Don't buy any additional tools because the cream is coming to the top. If you go to any of the conferences, actually demo some of the products at the conferences. Make sure that whatever you're going to invest in, if you invest in that, it does integrate with your ATS or CRM. If it doesn't, you don't want to get it. You don't need another system, and so I would say just for the time being, just take a deep breath and quit investigating all these companies because they're starting to weed themselves now out anyway. They're starting to weed out. A lot of them are falling by the wayside. But if you're going to any conferences, look at the AI companies that are demoing at the national conventions because they're making an investment and they specialize in what we do. Those are the best companies for you to use if you're going to use anybody. But I'm telling you, start with your CRM or ATS. Long answer? Sorry about that. Did that answer your
That's
question?
okay. No, no. It's just that, we're so slammed and it's just like
Yeah. And your
it's
recruiters and your
everything's
recruit
coming at us
your
going, oh,
your
do we
your
that?
and recruiters are putting pressure on you. We need this, we need that, we need.
Oh
Tell them
yeah.
no.
Oh
No, no,
yeah.
no. Learn how to use your ATS, learn how to use the AI function in the ATS. Once you master that, then talk to me about something else. That's what you're going
Okay.
to tell them.
Okay. Thank you for that.
You're welcome. Any other questions? Love that question, Elizabeth. Nice talking to you. Any other questions?
Hey, Barb, I got one for you.
Awesome.
So, are
Hi,
you
John.
seeing are you seeing recruiters leaning too hard into AI? They're scanning their resume in AI, getting their questions out of AI, having AI
Mhm.
answer it, having AI do the write up and all that stuff. There's no more, I feel like, depth of knowledge and relationship to what
Mhm.
previously had gone out there. So I feel like everything, I don't know, it just doesn't feel real. It feels kind of false.
Yep. And that's why candidates feel like all we care about is filling a job. We don't care about them. And again, you can use AI for some of the mundane tasks, but even like the summaries, where is the intuitiveness of what they learned during the interview? Where is, yes, they can use it to help formulate some of the questions and that type of thing, but again, yeah, they're leaning way too heavy on AI. And what's missing is compassion and intuition and empathy and that it just intuitive is that sixth sense that we have, and the write-ups are all looking. I have clients point blank say the recruiters are just throwing everything into AI because everything looks alike. Everything looks alike. And I'm going to give you guys
Exactly.
also a tool I want you to use. If your people are using AI too much, or if anybody's using AI, write this down, okay? I don't know if all of you are aware of this. Anytime you do anything in I want you to go to a site and it's called striphtml.com. So strip html.com, striphtml.com. And what you're going to do is you're going to copy and paste what you got out of AI and you're going to put it in. It's like a Word doc. You're going to put it in. You're going to paste it in there, and then you're going to click copy text, and it's going to strip it so that it doesn't sound like it came from AI. And nobody, if they put it in a tool asking if it came from AI, it won't show up because you've stripped the HTML. HTML. So that's one of the ways to get around not sounding all alike. But you've got to, and what I would do is, if they want to do a write-up or whatever, you say, I want 3 sentences to be your opinion of this candidate. I want 2 bullet points to be what you're sensing. What sets this candidate apart from somebody else during the interview, what came up? Give some insight into that. So I think as the owners, we have got to give our people guidance that they just can't keep cranking everything out of AI. And companies, that's the reason companies are cutting back. They point blank told me last year, and when I was in front of all our customers, they go, "You guys, you run ads, and then you stick the job description into AI, and then you stick the resume into AI, and you have it rewrite it so it fits our job description. We're not stupid, but you're all doing the same thing." And it's templated like AI. And even how AI does dashes all the time, they can tell by the format that you've used AI. So yes, and what we're doing is we're not that relationship building is just not there. And that's what this is
Exactly
all
what I
about.
was
It's all
thinking.
about
The
relationships.
relationship is gone. the,
Yes.
the ownership of the candidate, that relationship you built. So when the offer came in between your company and another company, they chose your candidate. I feel like that has faded away.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And the thing is too, and maybe you could say this to your people, 40% of the new clients you land and 40% of the people you place in jobs should be referred. 40% minimum. If you've been doing this longer than 18 months, 40% of your fills and your placements and 40% of your new clients should be referrals from your current clients. If that's not your reality, you're not near as good as you think you are, and you don't have the strong relationships you think you have. Last year, 62% of our placements and fills were referred. It's just more fun. It's just more fun. And it's easier business and it's not advertising jobs. We got to quit advertising, and so it's all about relationship building. And so if your people see how it benefits them, once you like 40% of and where we really drop the ball, John, is, and we're going to cover this in the sessions, we really drop the ball after we place somebody in a job. We place them and forget them. We go on to the next deal. And so they don't care. And like I said, imagine if everybody your company placed in a job, anytime anybody asks them, gee, where would you go to get a job? They say your company. Or if they talk to a hiring manager, who should I use? They say you. Even personal brands, our people don't even know their personal brand, their track record of success. We all sound alike. They accuse us of saying we're different. And when they ask us how we're different, we all say the same things. That's why they call us you people. And we don't have respect. But, it's costing your people a fortune by not building relationships. This has been, always will be a relationship building business. Technology just makes us more efficient, but it's a relationship building business and a relationship building process. So I'm in your corner, John, and
Awesome.
let your people listen to this answer. You're going to get this recording. Let your people listen to the answer that I just gave you. Because sometimes coming from a third party, I love when I do training for companies and I had owners always come back to me and they say, do you have the domain? What would Barb say? Because that's all our people are saying, Barb. And we've told them the same thing you told them for the last 2 years, but because you said it, they're doing it. Because I'm an outsider. Their kids go to the neighbors for advice. But yeah, play this for your people because it's costing them a lot of money by not building relationships. They're working too hard. They're working too hard. Loved your question, John. Did I answer your question? Because again, I went off on my little tangent again.
No, I
Did I
loved it.
answer?
I thought you were spot on, so I really
Oh,
appreciate
good.
it.
I felt like
See you in
I'm
November.
undiagnosed ADHD, John. I've never been diagnosed, but I'm sure if I was in school now, they'd have me on all kinds of medication. But
I'm sure
that didn't exist.
97% of us that are in this industry would fall in that same suit.
I think so too. But I have to watch my squirrel moments. So I just have to watch them. Any other questions from anybody? Any other questions?
Not a
Barb,
question.
Can you hear me?
I sure can.
Hi there. Barb, I have a question.
Okay.
Actually, you're very affirmative because I call myself and have been for many years as the relationship and storytelling recruiter. It's
I
one
love
way I
that.
distinguish myself from my competition.
I
I've
love
been
that.
getting a ton of emails from all these so-called companies, no identity at the bottom. We
Hmm.
can find you all these clients who are looking to
Hmm.
hire and you only pay when you close the deal. They don't give anything about their LinkedIn profiles, nothing about their websites. How can I trust them? And then I have to do Q&A to authenticate them. I frankly would be very suspicious.
I wouldn't use any of them. I wouldn't trust any of them. The way you find your clients is through interviewing. When your people are interviewing, your recruiter should be giving your salespeople 3 leads a day. They should ask everybody, how'd you get your job? And if they got it through another recruiting firm, when you call in, you say, we interviewed someone that got their job with you through another recruiting firm. So they can't say we don't use recruiters, we don't pay fees. You ask every candidate, where do you want to work and why? And you market candidates into the companies they want to work for and why. You check references and for reference checks to marketing presentations. Those 3 ways are the easiest way to land new clients. We just make it too difficult. You guys should all have targets. Your salespeople should know who they're targeting between now and the end of the year. They should reach out to them 6 times in the next 9 weeks. Let them know you really want their business. I would love nothing more than for all of you to have a record last quarter. And it's possible if you just make some changes. We make it too hard. Do not pay a service to give you a list. They're outdated, they're crap, and you don't need it. You're better than that.
Okay, thank you.
I love the storyteller thing, though. I love that title. I hope you have that on your LinkedIn profile.
Oh, yeah. And actually, I use storytelling techniques all the time to help prep my candidates to do better when they interview. And the
Hmm.
results show for themselves. And I also do a lot of presentations as a recruiter about how to use storytelling. So my presentations get a lot of airtime.
Well, and I'm telling all of you, our mind is wired to remember stories. That's why I told you the story about the VP of HR who wanted to drive a bus because I heard laughter. You're going to remember that story. Our minds are wired to remember those stories, but all of you have thousands of stories, and you have to have stories that you tell, and that's going to be part of the training I'm doing because you all need stories that you're going to share with candidates, you're going to share with clients because people remember stories and they sell. So, anybody else?
Thank you,
Hey,
Barb.
Barb.
Well, Adam, I think you're next.
Yeah.
What
How
did
you
you have to
doing?
say?
You're right.
So
I
No, it's
been
started
talking
Adam
this
with,
Adam
industry
Newman, I
before.
think is up next.
yes,
Can you hear
ma'am.
me?
Adam Newman, did
Yep,
you
I'm
have a
here.
question?
Yes. So, I kind of to complement what you've been saying, been talking to a lot of companies that I guess there's like a CEO or an owner or executive leadership that's like kind of forcing them to use all this AI add-on software and they're just
Mhm.
exhausted by it. And it's like they can't respond to me because they lose so much time and brain capacity thinking about AI software that they don't even want to use. And it's like kind of just getting in the way
Mhm.
more than helping, which I know we would all probably agree on mostly that's a most true fact, but it's I don't know. I've been struggling with trying to like stand out amongst just trying to get the visibility that I used to have with my clients because they're being pushed to use all this extra automation software, et cetera, et cetera. Does that make sense? Like,
It does. Do you do a local market?
yes and no, but I'd say probably 75% more local. Yeah.
Get face to face with people, and people will take your calls if they see how you can benefit them. I want to know your brand, Adam. I'm going to put you on the spot right now. Why should I use Adam as opposed to all your competition? Give me your brand in 30 seconds. Why should I use you as opposed to anybody else?
We specialize in accounting and corporate finance recruiting and been doing so for almost 20 years, and we're experts, and you're not.
Okay, so I now do you think that other accounting firms, what we do is when we're out there trying to get their attention, we do what we do calls. You just did a what we do presentation. We do this, we do that. We've been in business 20 years, we do accounting, we know what we're doing. Okay, that's what everybody does. That's why they say when we call and we say we're different, we all say the same thing. They don't care how many years you've been in business, they don't care what you specialize in, they don't care that you think you're an expert. They don't care about that. Your brand is your track record of success. If I called you Adam and I said, Adam, my name is Barb Bruno, and I've helped six of your competitors hire CFOs and staff accountants in the last 3 months. And what's great about what we do is the individuals that they hire from us, they become engaged and retained. Our retention rate of the people that they hire from us is extremely high. It's triple the average out there. You know, where you've got 35% of people right now that are accepting jobs are quitting in the first 90 days. We don't have that. Your track record of success is your brand. We have to quit making what we do calls. Your website, your LinkedIn profile is part of your marketing collateral, but your brand should be there too. Your brand to candidates is I've helped 7 individuals advance in their career with similar experience to yours in the last 2 months. I would love to know what you want to be next. We have to quit pitching what we do, and we have to pitch the fact that we're helping your competitors hire. I just want to know, how can we become a backup to your current resources for top talent? That's always a question with clients. How do we become a backup for your current resources for top talent? On the candidate side, what do you see as your next career move? We have to quit pitching jobs. They hate being pitched jobs. If I heard one thing over and over, I do weekly calls for job seekers, and they don't know I'm a recruiter, so they complain about us all the time. That's the number one complaint. But all of you got to develop a brand. And if you take this training, I'm going to have all of you develop brand statements because most people don't have them. And in the first 60 to 90 seconds, they know why they should use you. They realize you're helping their competition, and all of a sudden they want to do business with you because you're helping their competition. And not only are you helping them hire great people, we don't say placed. They've hired from us. We use their language and they become retained and engaged, which are the two buzzwords. Make sense?
Yeah, it does. Thank you. I appreciate
Didn't mean
that.
to put you on the spot. Okay, Ellen, did you
No,
have
no, no, it's good, good.
yeah, Ellen, did you have a question? Ellen Katz?
No, it's funny because you know me, I'm old school.
I
We
do know
still
you're in your
talk to
old school,
people.
but that's
A
okay.
lot of people don't, all that, some of our competition, all they do is ask to send resumes.
Uh-huh.
They don't even talk to the candidates. I've seen it getting that bad out there.
Yep.
I belong to a couple of big recruiting networks, and
Right.
we've learned the marketplace is changing. People are scared of the new ones entering the most.
Oh,
What we're
yeah.
always asking is how we're going to recruit these people, and they're only going to stay for 6 months to learn a technology and then quit.
Mm-hmm.
I've
Well,
not
and,
come
and
up with
again,
a
the number
solution
the
for
number of
that.
people quitting, The number of people quitting in the first 90 days, in the first 6 months of employment is higher than it's ever been in the history of our country. And so if you've got a good track record, where your people are retained, you've got to use that. And the truth of the matter, Alan, some of the old school stuff is what's working now. It's that relationship building. The reason you've been so incredibly successful, and you've been successful your whole career, Alan, is you're one of the best relationship builders I've ever seen. And you help everybody else. I know the networks you're in, they all look up to you because you help everybody. And it's introductions. It's just, introductions. And so we've got to go back to that relationship building. But the way you're going to get through to them on the phone and the way they're going to take your call, when you call anybody, whether it's a candidate or a client, they have two questions. Why are you calling me and how can you benefit me? That's all they care about. They want to know, why are you calling me? So don't go this big pitch. If you're going to call and you're going to market a candidate, the first thing you're going to say is, by the way, my name is Barb Bruno. I normally would be calling my best client right now. Let me tell you why I'm calling you instead. My best client wants to know when I have an accountant who has cut cop, that, I'm going to give sizzle. But when I asked this person where they wanted to work, they said your company. And this is why it's not enough just to ask candidates where they want to work. Why do they want to work there? Because if they want to work someplace, they've got inside information. And so you share that, and now they know you're not BSing them.
No, that's a great approach.
Yep.
Yeah, I stopped doing the younger people.
Yeah. And I will give you guys will get all kinds of scripts and everything. And that's why I dummied this down to $3.99, guys. I'm going to give you so much stuff, but it's everything that you guys need. It's everything that you need. But again, any questions you ask me now, I'll give you whatever answers you want right now for free. So anybody has any other questions?
Thank you, Barb.
You're welcome. You're welcome. I'm so glad you guys are here. As you can tell, this is going to be the basis foundation for my training going forward, because this is not going to change. I'm going to just keep fine tuning this because this is what's going to work. I'm convinced after 2 years of studying this, this is what's going to work. This is who we have to become. We have to become this if you want to flourish, if you want to scale. Okay, it is just about, oh my gosh, we almost went an hour. I promised you 30 minutes, but we did questions. So I appreciate all of you showing up. Again, whether you use me or not, please look at that transformation wheel. I have put so much time into this. I know for a fact that this is what's going to work for you guys. And it's not you got to totally revamp your firm. Just make some solid changes and get your team on board. All right. So thank you, everybody. I love all of you for showing up. And hopefully I'll be working with you. We're going to do 2 calls in August, 2 calls in September, and set you up for the last quarter this year. So thanks, everybody.